Every family used to do this, putting a tiny seed into the ground, covering it up, and praying for a staple food crop to keep you alive all year. Everyone helped at seeding time and harvest time. Man, woman, child, everybody had a role to play. I mean, when you think about it, most people throughout history were farmers for their own food and for their neighbors. And that's what we've got going on here. We are about to plant a crop that, God willing, will be grown, milled, and eaten right here in our remote part of Montana. And that is a heck of an old-fashioned idea these days. No giant corporate structure, no shipping around the world, just a step back in time. And this time right now is the first big push of the year, seeding. So there's dawn till dusk, work to do, and men to feed. This is the start of a flat-out run to get wheat seed in the ground. And this year, it's not just any type of wheat. So let's get to the farm work and make a quick, unsophisticated meal in this remote cabin to feed a hungry farmer. The wheat that will be planted today is an old variety. The wheat our great-grandparents and earlier knew. And it has some qualities to it that have almost died out, but we believe are worth rekindling. Modern wheat and the tools used to plant it have changed a lot over time. In the last 100 years, it's been dramatic. And honestly, with much success. I mean, when was the last time you experienced famine? That isn't thanks to farmers becoming better farmers year after year after year, and scientists developing new methods and new varieties. But we have lost something in all that. And the crops this year are aimed at taking us back in time to find flavors lost in history. You may think, hey, wheat is just wheat. I used to. But it's the foundation of life for humans, and we've been cultivating it and breeding it for thousands of years. Today, we have a heritage wheat to put into the ground. That was a staple wheat of the 1800s. Not as old as einkorn or kamut, but wheat, in particular red wheat, that we mill into a soft flour, that has been what humans have loved, and there's a reason we've cultivated so many varieties of it. This particular one is a flavor that many used to know well. It's said to be so different from modern wheat varieties that often people can digest this wheat when all the modern varieties make them sick. This is Rouge De Bordeaux. The folklore goes that it came from wheat cultivated by the Romans. Then it was kept safe by the monks in remote regions of France throughout the turmoil of the next 1,500 years. In the 1800s, it came to be in its current form and was a beloved variety treasured by French bakers for 150 years. This is a red hard wheat, and it's a flavor from the 1800s that many would have known, and perhaps a variety that would have made its way around the world as people in that time period immigrated to new lands. But we don't want to just grow this wheat. We want to mill it. We want to bake with it. And in fact, the bread I'm using to cook lunch today is made with this very treasured flour. A bit of sifted Rouge de Bordeaux, some water, yeast, and salt, and voila! A humble loaf of bread, ready to become a humble farmer's lunch. With a twist, because I've added some inclusions to this loaf, something I've never tried doing before. But it's going to take this over the top. First though, let's get this seed into the ground, as a whole family. All right, I've got the cook stove going, and I can see Robbie's headed this way with the seeder. So I'm gonna go catch him. Now this tractor may not be new, but it's a whole lot more modern than oxen and horses pulling farm equipment. Those days are truly long behind us. Even the Amish have solar panels on their roofs and tractors in their fields. Some tools may be new, but the process is the same. You put that seed in the earth at the right time, in the right way, and pray for rain. Certain work never changes.
Okay, we are headed out to check the drill, check the seed level, and see how many acres we've seeded. So, this is the nervous part. We're gonna check the bins. And sometimes, if you have a mess up, you will see one bin shorter than the other. There's 2 different meters, one for each side. As you can see, they're both pretty even. So we're very happy with that. As you can see, it kind of slices through the ground, leaves a trench, puts the seed in, packs it, closes it. And our job, every now and again, is to get out of the air conditioning and check. And what we're looking for is any seed on the ground. We want to make sure everything's covered. And then occasionally we'll actually dig down in the trench, find one here. I think it's doing a pretty good job of packing. Yeah, see? I don't know if you can see that. There's a seed right there. That's about the right height too. And just back and forth, back and forth. Hear all the frogs. That pond is full. It's not a bad day. No wind. And there, right over my finger, is Uncle Dan's. So always within sight.
Of course, planting a crop isn't done in a day. Before today's big morning of the final work, actually putting the seed in the ground, the field had to be tilled, harrowed, rolled, and then finally seeded. This field here had been hay ground, essentially untilled and unsprayed since the 1970s. But to give the heritage seed its best chance, that thick layer of sod had to first be broken up and prepared. If you guys want to see more about the real work it takes to grow wheat for bread, click that subscribe button and consider becoming a channel member. We'll post a handful of extra videos of this time of year showing the joys of farming. Okay, back to the kitchen though. Humble French toast and skillet-seared sausage. A hot lunch for a weary farmer. Now I'm dipping the sourdough slices into an egg and milk batter, nothing fancy. Except of course for the bread, which is a little bit fancy. Now I'm no bread master, but throwing sourdough yeast into some water and flour and letting it rise all morning, and then taking one extra step for flavor is about my speed. After this bread's first rise, I drizzled honey and cinnamon over the dough, and I folded them in. It rose a second time, and then it baked in a hot oven. And then it sat for a couple days, drying out just enough to make perfect French toast. Eggs, whole milk, and a splash of homemade vanilla are all you really need for this French toast. Into the cast iron skillet it has gone, with a heap of butter sizzling away in there too. This will only take a minute and it will be done. And all the while the sausage patties have been crisping in another iron skillet. This is the sort of meal that's just irresistibly delicious. Hot from the top of the cook stove, ready in a flash, with just the right hit of pure maple syrup drizzled over the top. Back in the homestead farmer days of the late 1800s, maple syrup would probably have been pretty rare. It likely would have been sorghum syrup that would have been poured over, or a special syrup called lick, which was lard and molasses heated together. I'm grateful for our maple syrup today. So lunch is almost ready. I've got a French toast made from homemade cinnamon and honey bread, and we have sausage that's been nicely browned, and everything's tucked up in the warming oven of the old cook stove. So I'm just waiting for Robbie to come in, and I can see he's made his final pass on that field out there. So one of the joys of having a cabin in the middle of nowhere most of the time is that during seeding, I'm right in the heart of it. So Robbie's able to just walk over here and we'll have lunch together. And not a bad day. For as busy as seeding is, this is basically date night. So I'm happy. Still very hot. Milk the maple cow myself. It's hot.
No, it's not.
It's not?
It just doesn't take me long to look at a cast iron pan. No, exactly.
Look, I even lit a candle for us.
I saw that.
This is basically date night. Which is so weird. You'd think whatever happened in winter. A dusting of cinnamon over the top of the sourdough French toast, a splash of pure maple syrup. It may be a humble meal, but who wouldn't want the warmth of this on a long, breezy spring day? We had our laughs, and it didn't take us long to clean our plates.
No, that was delicious though. Do you like the double lock or the triple sliding lock? That may or may not have been your best French toast. You'll have to make it some more and we'll have to verify that.
Robbie was off to seed another field, having finished getting the Rouge De Bordeaux in the ground. He had one more type of wheat to put in. This one with a long history of being used as a specific type of flour. Durham was in the hopper and headed to the next field. Durham wheat is fantastic for pasta and pizza flour, renowned for its flavor and cooking qualities, and it's fair to say we have some plans for this wheat.
It's an exciting time of year you can smell the grass growing, you break your grass leaf, it has that pungent smell, so it's exciting. We've had a few resident antelopes show up, and the elk are on the other side of the mountain. This ground has been pasture. We worked it, we rolled it, we're gonna go seed it. Also, this field's pretty small, so it's just a lot of turning back and forth and back and forth. It'll be worth it in the end. Pretty nice looking grain.
God and nature willing, between these different wheats, the Durham and the Rouge, we will have some incredible flours to try this fall. But all of this is just wheat berries until you can mill it. And that is where the next step of our dreaming comes into play. It arrived today. It's built of granite stone and wood. And it traveled here all the way from the Ukraine. Hit that subscribe button and catch us in the next video to find out just what we're up to with this next tool. Thanks for hanging out in the cabin with us. Happy farming, everyone. Cheers.
Guys in the podcast, we're going to learn about the Europeans today. How have your Ziploc containers been? Do you like the double lock or the triple sliding lock? Ziploc provides a fresh...
I think I'm going to keep all the audio.